Your Excellency Ambassador Paula Wilson, my old friend and colleague General Bill Rollo, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It's a very great honour for my wife Jenny and I to be invited here this evening. It's a great honour for me to be able to represent this evening the Government of Australia and the people of Australia. The day after tomorrow, the world will pause for a few minutes to remember one of the most savage and destructive periods of human history as we commemorate the 95th anniversary of World War I. The war, it was said, that would end all wars. How wrong we were when just 20 years later the world was once again plunged into savage conflict. At a speech that he delivered in Brussels on Tuesday, President Van Rompuy reminded us, those who were present, that by 1945 Europe had lost 40 million citizens killed in one generation. I find that figure staggering. We're gathered here this evening in this place, a place which in 1917, as we've heard and seen on the video, was at the centre of some of the most fierce fighting of the Great War. The Battle of Messines, that began on the 7th of June 1917, was the first large-scale action involving my countrymen in Belgium, and it marked the entry of the 3rd Australian Division into a major battle. One of the members of that division was in fact my grandfather. This costly but successful battle was for the British and Commonwealth forces an important victory in the lead-up to the Third Battle of Ypres. The numerous battles around this region of Ypres cost Australian forces 38,000 casualties, including nearly 12,000 men killed. The Battle of Messines began a few minutes after 3 on the morning of the 7th of June with 19 powerful mines exploding under the German trenches up on the Messines Ridge, and we have seen that graphically in the film footage. It was reported, as seen in the video, that this was heard as far away as London. The 3rd Australian Division, under the command of General John Monash, alongside our New Zealand comrades, the New Zealand Division, made a very successful attack just south of the village of Messines. Later on in the day, the 4th Australian Division, the 2nd Australian Division involved in the attack, was brought into action, and by the end of the day, the ridge had been taken. The Battle of Messines was the first occasion on which, in the Western Front, where Australian and New Zealand divisions had operated together. Between us, we sustained 14,000 casualties in this one battle. The story of the exploding mines and the tunnellers whose dangerous work and excavation laid the mines and has captured the imagination of historians and filmmakers, and this was recently exemplified in the production of the film Beneath Hill 60. The 1st Australian Tunnelling Company was instrumental in constructing the catacombs that consisted, as you've seen, of the 19 galleries, all built within 3 months. Now, all of this is background to this wonderful commemorative interpretive centre at Ploegsteert. Mayor Deleur, I want to say to you that the building of this centre is a testament to the commitment and the very hard work of the leaders and the members of the community of comines and warneton. As we approach the centenary of World War I, the Australian Government, in conjunction with all levels of government here in Belgium, has supported several key sites in their development along the northern end of what we regard as a commemorative trail that runs the length of the Western Front. This trail allows Australians, and indeed citizens, of course, of all nations, to visit, to reflect upon and better understand what happened here 100 years ago. We Australians, like you folk here in Belgium, passionately believe that we must never forget the events that took place here. We must learn from our experience, and we must never repeat this dark chapter of our history. This message must be passed from generation to generation. There are here in Belgium 3 sites on the commemorative trail: the In Flanders Field Museum in Ypres, the Memorial Museum Passchendaele 1917, and this Ploegsteert Interpretive Centre. For us, this museum recounts the story of the tunnellers of the Battle of Messines. The Australian government contributed €250,000 to the centre, and the Department of Veteran Affairs contributed significant historical information and some extensive cinematography and images. The Office of the Australian War Graves also funded and managed the transport of this amazing bronze relief that you can see down in the Interpretive Centre. Now, while governments make an important contribution, it's the action of individuals that captures my imagination. So let me say a few words about the bronze relief, which you will see this evening. The idea of the relief was conceived by a distinguished resident of Townsville, Mr Ross Thomas. Mr Thomas raised the funds to commission the Australian sculptor Michael Mazzaros to design and produce the original piece, which was installed in the Army Museum in North Queensland late last year. At the same time, late last year, Mr Thomas sought the assistance of the Department of Veteran Affairs in Australia to find a suitable location to place a replica relief on the Western Front. Early this year, the Office of the Australian War Graves Commission agreed to place the replica here in this centre. The relief itself is dedicated to the Australian tunnellers of World War I and depicts members of the 1st Australian Tunnelling Company at work under the Messines Ridge, preparing for the firing of Hill 60 and the Caterpillar mines. Mr Thomas privately funded this replica, and Mr Mazzaros donated both money and managed the production for no fee. And I'm honoured to acknowledge the presence here this evening of both Mr Thomas and Mr Mazzaros, 2 fine Australian citizens. Thank you.